Okay, so hi Michelle. I know you're editing this. I'll do a little intro and then I'll like call you in basically,
Too
and
easy.
then we can just we'll improv from there. So this is how the arts were won. Episode. I don't know. I'm not going to say episode numbers anymore because I forget. We are without Michelle Daniel today. Sadly, I say sadly because our wonderful guest today is going to be stuck with me, asking mostly nonsensical questions about the publishing industry and the thriller genre. However, Michelle did a solo episode a few weeks ago, so we're all even now. And I'm going to put a poll on Twitter to see who did a better job. I know. The person laughing in the background is author A.M. Adair, or it's Amma. Ama. I'm
Ema.
sorry.
Yeah.
Amma
No,
sounds like someone's Nona in the old country.
yeah, if it sounds remotely close, I answer to it. I'm pretty used to, I would imagine almost every variation you could think of.
Sure. Amma, Oma. Let's go through them all. But
Alma,
it is,
I've Anna, Amy, you name it.
yes. Well, and your writing name isn't that far from Ama, but I'm
Nope.
sure you got sick of correcting people. So just let me pick letters, right?
No, actually, one, it looks better on the cover when you use your initials, but those are my initials. So I just do A.M. Adair. And
Right.
ironically, my initials and my first name are the exact same thing and a palindrome.
Oh,
But
true.
because I write thrillers, initially there was some thought for me to not want to alienate any male readers because
Hmm.
it is a male heavy genre, and the readership is also very male dominated. So
Yes.
I know you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but inevitably people do. And I didn't want any of that, whether it be explicit or implicit bias, to kind of work
Hmm.
against me. So I used my initials so that way the book would stand more on its own.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. We're going to get into that too because
Okay.
I wrote down little questions for myself, and that was actually one of them. So we're going to loop back to that because I am very curious about why that's the case. And I know it's historically been a very male-dominated genre, but there are a lot of female authors now. When I go to BoucherCon, when I go to Thriller Fest, a ton of female authors writing political thrillers and different stuff in this genre and different subgenres. So let me give our audience a quick rundown of who you are. A.M. Adair retired from active duty as a chief warrant officer of the United States Navy. She has over 21 years in the intelligence community, specializing in counterintelligence and human intelligence. Still searching for that last one, probably. She's done multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, and this has all kind of led to her writing thrillers. Her debut novel, Shadow Game, came out several years ago. Second novel was Deeper Shadow. The third was Shadow War. And her latest, she's ditched the shadow names for her latest, is called A New Game, which has won a handful of awards. They've all won a handful of awards at this point. And now she's here to talk about writing thrillers. I can't wait.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much
But
for
thrillers are exciting. Thank you so much for having me. And
yeah.
anytime you want to talk thrillers, I'm all for it.
Yeah. I've met so many thriller writers at this point. I would say almost half of them have like a background in either they're retired military or some of them are still active military who are writing on the side. Why is that the case? It's just a natural segue into writing in that genre?
Well, I mean, some people are going to come out and say that, you're supposed to always kind of ambiguous, write what you know.
Right.
But I really do think it's because everybody who's, done time in service or, been in a high risk job, we all would have been terrible Jedi because we all crave that action. We want the adventure, we want the excitement. And, there's no way for you to really get that outside of being shot at yourself than to actually, dive into the pages. So when you start creating stories, you create the stories that you want to read. And so if you're an action junkie, you write action heavy material, and those tend to be thrillers.
Sure. You guys can't see her background right now, but it's like a chess set mixed with a gun. And then one of the chess pieces is bleeding. It was shot.
Yeah, it's the cover to my fourth novel.
I was going to say it's probably
so yeah,
yeah.
A new game. See, it's definitely took chess to the next level. But yeah,
Sure.
And the reason I did that is because when I wrote my first three books, I had a trilogy in mind. So the names kind of all went with each other because it was essentially an extension of the same storyline.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I started book 4, it is an entirely different direction for my characters. Same world, same characters, but very different storylines. So that's why I came up with a new name. And the next one will have a nod to this as well. So you'll be, they'll kind of tie together those storylines a little bit.
When you published the first one, you knew you wanted it to be a series, I'm assuming, right? That was highly dependent on how well that first one sold. And did you make a deal with the same publisher or?
No, actually, I was going to do it no matter what. So I guess I didn't come up with this term, a good friend of mine did, but, kind of guerrilla publishing, just like, kind of throwing caution to the wind and saying to hell with the traditional publishing pipelines and just getting your book out there however it works best for you. And for me, it ended up being a bit of a hybrid model. But to answer your question, when I started querying, because I'd finished writing Shadow Game, originally it was not titled Shadow Game. And I started querying with the intent of it being 3 parts. And I had this kind of general story arc in my head on how each of these books were going to progress the story. And I say general because I'm a pantser. I had the hash points, kind of like the way marks that I would have throughout the storyline. And then it's an adventure for me to get from point A to point B. And a lot of times my characters end up surprising me, which is why it stays interesting. But that's how I queried it. I queried it as a trilogy. I'm going to write this as 3 parts and, I just threw it out there. And as luck would have it, I did get an agent. And he's also a producer. So he's out there in La La Land with you.
Oh, good. I'm south.
Oh, really?
I'm separate. I'm like a good 45 minutes away with traffic.
Oh, well, with traffic, that could only be like 5 miles.
Right. I know. Exactly. Whenever anyone says I'm from Hollywood, I'm like, no, not South Bay. Go South Bay.
Not it.
I want to be lumped together. But anyway, that's good. The agent you got after the first book?
Yeah, I got it when I was querying for my very first novel. And originally we were going with the traditional publishing route. He was, going about trying to sell my books to the publishers. But during this time, I was still active duty and I deployed. And, I know this is probably going to blow people's mind, but I kind of just forgot about the whole process. I just kind of let him do his thing. And then I had other things going on that were a little more pressing. But then when I was on deployment, I noticed nobody was using, nobody was walking around with paperbacks anymore. Like my early days of deploying, I mean, I took books everywhere. And so I'd have a stack of books in my luggage with me whenever I deployed, but people were using e-readers now. And I kind of started thinking about, well, if everybody's just going and using e-readers, then why not just go ahead and self-publish and be done with it? What's the point of trying to, get kicked in the teeth? He was sending me like the feedback from the different publishers as he got it, which was great. But I could just go ahead and publish and be done and just move on with the next book. And so I went back to him and said, hey, this is what I want to do. He does have a small company that he helps writers. So it's like an a la carte service. That's how I got my editor, how I got my cover designer, how I got the formatting done. You can kind of choose what you want to. So
all 4 were hybrid publishers?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, good. It still gets a bad rap, self-publishing and hybrid publishing. But you know what? When I see writers take a more traditional route, even with bigger imprints of the big 5 publishers, and I wouldn't say they complain necessarily, and if they did, I wouldn't name names, but they're not really doing any marketing for them. In fact, they have less control and the publisher is not doing anything for them. So it's like, it's kind of a lose-lose in some cases. I understand the allure of traditional publishing, even if it's a small press. We co-launched a small press this year, and I would love to find great books, and I want, all that. But it's not for everybody.
No, right? It's not. You have to find the way to publishing that works best for you. And sometimes you might not know what that means. And so for me at the time, this seemed like the right way to go. And I figured I could come back to traditional if I change my mind later. But now I think I've gotten to the point where I'm so used to having that much control that I don't think I could give it up.
Right.
I've had to write things under deadlines for other projects now. And I'm just kind of like, maybe I want to stay. I want to stay indie, so that way I do have that control and I do have that ability to, set my own deadlines and make my own creative choices.
Did you have marketing experience, or was this like marketing yourself and marketing your own book is kind of like a completely different skill set, even if you are in marketing? So
it is definitely a different world. So I had my associates as in media communications, and I have a very solid knowledge based on what it takes. However, I am a bit of a anomaly in that I rebel at the idea of putting myself out there. So, it comes from my time in service. So, I'm so used to not talking about myself, not talking about what I'm doing, that it was a huge paradigm shift for me. So I still try to mentally wrap my head around that. I'm trying to promote my work and not so much myself. But, in this day and age, that is a huge mashup. So if people don't know who you are or invest in you, chances are they're not going to pick up your work. So it's...
Well, and I will say, based on firsthand experience, because I follow you on Instagram and X and all that, you do a very good job of not being annoying about marketing your work. You know what I mean?
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Well, no, that's the highest praise you can get as a self sort of marketer and self promoter of your own stuff. You know what I mean? There's some authors that are just like, it's endless, and it's like you gotta kind of stagger it or like think of something a little bit more clever and all that. And it is. There's a time cost and there's a cost to it all. I know you go to a lot of conferences. I know you put yourself out there. Was that also a big hurdle? Having been by the way, what's a chief warrant officer? Just so we're clear on what that is.
So basically what happens in the military is you have enlisted and officers. And as the enlisted person, you are expected to be a technical expert. So that means whatever your job was in the military, as you achieve more rank, you are supposed to get better and better at that job. And then also on the Navy side of the house, they expect you to be a leader as well. And then on the officer side, you're more of a jack of all trades, but you're supposed to be the best leader who understands how to manage your people and all those. So a warrant officer falls in between the two. So you have somebody who has like the best technical knowledge of whatever their skill set is. And now they have the power behind the rank to be the decision maker, to make calls, to drive the direction something is supposed to go. 9 times out of 10, the enlisted are there just to follow those orders. And then the officers are the ones giving those orders, so that the warrant officer bridges that.
I see. I
thought it was like a lot.
I thought it was like there's not a lot.
There's not a lot. There aren't a lot of warrant officers. It is a small community, and particularly with my skill set was even smaller. I think by the time I retired, there might have been 20 of us, and I think 5 were women.
Wow, in the entire Navy.
In the entire Navy.
Wow.
For our job, it was even smaller. So like the intel community writ large, very small warrant officer community. Then my specialty, like you were reading earlier, counterintelligence and human intelligence, was even smaller.
Yeah.
Very, very, very small group.
Well, I thought it was going to be like a bounty hunter situation.
Well, if it was, I wouldn't be able to tell you about that.
Oh, see, that's the real thing, you guys. That's what a warrant office. Don't listen to her. Go Wikipedia it now.
No, yeah, you'll get all the jokes. There's a ton of jokes out there. It's like, what's a warrant officer do? Nobody knows because we've never seen one. There'll be something along that, they leave the cover on the desk just so people think that they're there, but they're really off somewhere doing whatever. Right.
Well, I asked you because putting yourself out there, you're not really used to that sort of dynamic.
No, it's been a massive learning curve in that regard. That's a personal thing, though. That is entirely a personal growth. I'm an introvert anyway, so it's already a little bit odd.
You're an introvert?
I am. I know.
Not at the conferences I've been to, ma'am. But
you were at BoucherCon and you heard Harlan say it best, socially adept introverts. And that is a very good description of me. I can fake it with the best of them, but yeah. If I had my way, I would be absolutely alone somewhere with a book, and that I would be perfectly fine because being social does drain me. It exhausts me. Yeah. And I think that probably made me better at my job too, but it serves me well in this world as well.
I think Michelle and I are socially adept introverts. Harlan Coben, she's mentioning, who said that on a panel, and it was very accurate. It describes a lot of people, I think, who might not have been formally diagnosed, but are realizing that maybe that's what but they are. Uh,
Well, you think about like you go to that concert and you have so much or concert conference and you have fun with all your fellow nerds because we all get
mhm.
so jazzed up and geek out over all of the same material and we have a blast doing it. But
Yeah.
then you get home and you just crash. You're like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. I just want to sleep for a week, you know?
Right.
And those are the key indicators is like, you know, it's the intellectual stimulation that gets you past that kind of that social, I guess, awkwardness
Yeah.
or any reservations you might have, but then it still does drain you. It still takes a toll, and that's when you feel it afterwards.
Well, that's a good point too. What is the best advice you could give a newer author or a debut author that hasn't really been to a lot of author conferences, or at least hasn't been as a published author? What's their best way to, like I said, market themselves without being annoying about it?
Really, at that point, it really is just about making network connections. Just be yourself,
Mhm.
be a person. Put yourself out there a little bit. It can be scary, but it can be just as simple as striking up a conversation over a book. It could be shaking
Mhm.
somebody's hand. It could be getting a card and, you know, following them on social media, like commenting on a stupid meme. You know, there's ways for
Mhm.
you to get your name out there and ways for you to kind of dip your toe in the professional world of writers without it having to be, hey, read my book. I want you to do my blurb. It doesn't have to be in
Yeah.
your face and, you know, to the point where it's obvious you're only in it for an end goal for, you know,
Mhm.
zero, some game on your end and there's no reciprocity. So,
Yeah, and I want to say it was Karen Dion, but maybe it wasn't. It was some other established female author whose name escapes me. But I was at Left Coast Crime, and they said they gave someone I was listening in on a conversation, and they gave a younger author really good advice. I thought, and they said to prioritize friendships over networking. And I thought that was like it's a very simple way to phrase it, but that's exactly what you should be doing, right?
yeah, just have a conversation. Yeah, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
when I say networking, that is a better direction or a better description is to try to establish real connections with people because then that becomes like your community. You know, Killer Nashville refers to it as your tribe. You know,
Yeah.
it's a concept that's super easy for me to wrap my head around just because, you know, when you transition out of the military, they tell you constantly when you become a veteran, you need to find another community. You need to find a connection with other people to prevent you from becoming like the crazy person that lives in the cave and just like throws, you know,
Right.
rocks at people who come and stand on their lawn.
There's no lawn if you live in a cave, though. I just want to clarify.
Fair
It's a
enough. Fair
nice
enough.
cave.
I know I was kind of meshing my analogies there, but you know, it is a pretty image though.
Yes,
Um,
but you're right in that respect, and I think it's hard for a lot of writers who are otherwise perfectly normal people and very intelligent, and it's a little overwhelming at first when you have a book
yeah.
that comes out traditionally published or otherwise, whether it's a bestseller or not. It's just there's a learning curve there that I think you have to adapt to,
Oh yeah.
and the social landscape and like it's just in such a weird place because everyone keeps getting conflicting advice. It feels like as recently as 3 years ago, it feels like lit agents were telling their clients and telling future potential clients that you need to be on TikTok, you need to do this, you need to have an audience, and now it's like it's almost a complete 180. It feels like, and they're like, nah, you don't really need any of that. Just write a good book. So,
I think it's just because it's become saturated. You know, once upon a time, I
mhm,
think everybody, because it is a business. You know, people were looking at how is it going to be make my life easier. You know, if you're an agent, you're looking at the horizon of where you need this to go. If you're somebody who's trying to make money off of writing, that is what your litmus test is. So
mhm,
for them, if you already had a baked in audience that they could sell to, that was a guaranteed sell in their book and probably made you a little less daunting of a client to have. But
yeah.
now everybody's got social media. Everybody has some kind of following. Everybody's got something going on. So it's no longer the thing that stands out anymore. So it's probably why they've taken some of the emphasis off of it. Or it's
Mhm.
gone in the other direction where there's too much out there. And now you are not somebody who's marketable because you are too much of one thing or another.
That's a good point too. Like the constant marketing battle I always have just with pipeline is how do you make yourself stand out with all the noise?
Yeah.
And it's like you can't chase those little like marketing trends and because it's going to feel stale and it's going to feel forced. It's the same thing when you're marketing yourself as an author, especially in your case where you're like you don't have a big PR team, I'm assuming behind you, right?
Nope.
Yet. Soon enough. Uh,
I am so good being the gray man. So it's like,
right.
it's like I think George R. R. Martin said it best. I do not wish for fame. I wish for success. And that's what I want. I want success for my work. If people have no idea who I am when I walk in the room, I am so good with that. But I do love the idea of my work being something that people enjoy. So if I could see something that I wrote have success, I am totally good with, walking into a restaurant and dropping my name for my reservation and people looking at it like, yeah, you're going to have to wait like everybody else. Just being a nobody other than I did something great.
George R. R. Martin said this?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's failed. The man can't, he's the most recognizable face in publishing.
He made a great joke at Thriller Fest a few years ago talking about that. Like the only place he can go now is his publisher's office and not be recognized. And the joke, of course, being because everybody's waiting for the next book that he's never finished. But now
that was
he can't
like
go out
4 years ago and he still hasn't finished it.
Yeah. And he can't go to dinner without being stopped by fans asking to take pictures or sign stuff for him. So that's why he's meant to be, wish for success and not fame.
Yeah. Well, for the rest of us.
I strive for.
Yeah. Well, hey, God forbid we get recognized in a restaurant ever.
Yeah. Yeah. But that goes back to the socially adept, introvert where you're like, thank you. But it would make me so uncomfortable, but I would smile and I would be courteous and then I would probably go and hide.
Well, you have a recognizable look too. When I see you at a conference, I'm like, I know I've met this person before.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The gray hair. The gray hair definitely does it.
Is it the gray hair?
Yeah. Yeah. I am old enough now that I have accepted it. This is, not only accepted, I kind of like it now, but.
Yeah. Which tour gave you the gray hair? The Iraq tour or the Afghanistan tour?
I'm pretty sure it's all started in Iraq, but
yeah.
It could be, the kids I worked with when I was in the military, because those are my kids. I know they're all grown adults, but they're my kids or my actual kids, or my husband, take your pick. It could be any of them, all of them.
A strand for each dresser, basically.
A streak on each side for everywhere.
How much of the books that you wrote, the 4 so far, are pulled from your real life experience, or is it kind of secondhand stuff that you're basing it on?
It's a little bit of both. So there's a lot in my books, and I guess I like to equate it. My protagonist is a little bit of an alter ego for me, like kind of if I could do anything I want without having that fear of repercussion, what would I do? And so I had a lot of fun with that. And that's how my protagonist evolved, was from a whole bunch of what ifs, that I had an incident in Baghdad that really just kind of got things rolling around in my head. What if? And that kind of spawned the character that would become Elle Anderson. Was like, what kind of character would I want to have in a situation like this? How would they respond? How would they act to it? And I toyed with that for a very long time until I finally just, on another deployment, decided to put the proverbial pen to paper and start writing it out. And a lot of her experiences are things I've actually done. So when I describe doing certain things like, fast roping out of a helicopter, when I describe, how to hold a weapon, when I describe, breaking into a building, all these things I have actually done. So I can pull on that. So, the sensory things are things that I remember. When talking about places that she's been, the things that she sees, smells, tastes, touch, those are real experiences for me. And then I took stories from people that are close to me or that I heard second, third order, depending on where it was. And those could then become the backstories or filler for my other characters. Some of my supporting cast are modeled off of people that I worked with and know very well. So there's a lot of realism there.
Sure. I read I.S. Berry's, or I've started reading I.S. Berry's Peacock and the Sparrow. I don't know if you've read it yet. And I started reading your first book, which I have somewhere here. Amongst my 90 books that I buy at every conference, I'm like, I'm going to read them all for the next one so I can talk to all the authors about it. And then that never happens. But It's kind of similar in the sense that you don't weigh us down with a ton of like minutia and detail, but there's still a lot of richness to it, which I found also with hers. I mentioned because it's fresh in my mind, but same sort of thing. You build the world, but you don't have to laden it with too much inside baseball sort of like
Yeah.
reference. Which is, I'm sure you've read a lot of like thrillers and political thrillers and
Yeah.
wartime thrillers and stuff that do that, and it just doesn't. It's almost like the author's trying to show off on like how much they know, and like that doesn't really work.
I think it's a style choice in a lot of ways. You are right. It's not so much of showing off what they know, it's showing off what they like. And, especially if somebody's, let's say, a gun enthusiast, like, because if you write thrillers, you read thrillers, you're going to read a lot about guns. I'm not so big in having all the nomenclature of what the exact caliber is, how fast a bullet travels, like all those things. That's not key for my character. So for me, there's no point in sitting in there. I have an assassin. I have a spy. I have somebody who's, very much action driven. Now, if were writing a character about a sniper, snipers care about those things. So I understand them getting into that minutia because it makes it a little bit more genuine for that character. It's more authentic because they really do think about those things. They really do have all that memorized. Math is their thing. Math is not my thing. So I'm not talking, I'm not going to be breaking down the velocity of the bullets. And
that's a good point. It really does depend on POV. Sorry, it does depend on POV.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
It fits better for me and my story. It's more genuine for my character because, she really doesn't care. As long as the bullet's getting the job done, that's all she cares about. So
she cares about murder. No, murder.
It's like, well, and my protagonist has a very dark streak, which it gets darker as the series goes on. So, it would make sense for her to not give a shit. And pardon my French, I should have asked if that's, but
well, our poor audience is kindergarten to second grade. It's more of a chapter book audience. No, it's fine. Cuss all you want. Fuck.
Okay, awesome. Well, as you pointed out, I am a sailor. I do try very hard to keep my language clean, but sometimes it just kind of.
No, you have to be yourself, as you said. It's conference rules only. You have to be yourself on all podcasts.
There you go. But I think that goes into it. And if you're writing a techno thriller, people want the tech. They want those nuances, and so that's what makes it what they are.
Yeah. That makes sense. Speaking of the character, what's next in the series? Is this kind of an open-ended series, or you just see an end for it?
I do see an end for it, and I know people are probably going to be very disappointed with me when I do end it, which is great.
Because you built up a lot of fans. I know I've talked to a lot of people who have read your stuff and who kind of follow you around.
And I am so honored, and it's actually pretty surprising. I really did think my mom would be the only one who'd read my book, and then she'd yell at me for it because it's not her kind of book.
Right.
But
has she read it?
She read them. She read all of them, and she likes them.
Look at that.
Yelled at me once, which is shocking to me because there's everything about that is so not my mom.
Right.
But I am so grateful and so honored that there are people who actually enjoy my stories. And I think I would be doing it a bit of a disservice if I tried to hold on too much longer because again, being true to my character, she's not going to be around forever.
Right. You're going to kill her off in the next book. Is that what you're saying?
I may not kill her, but she is due for quite a fiery and epic conclusion.
She is going to be a George R. R. Martin crossover. The fiery, she's foreshadowing. A dragon's gonna breathe.
Hey, you can't go wrong with dragons. I think I might lose people with the authenticity, but I am a big dragon fan.
What if you did that? You had this nice following over several years, a decade, and then you're like, and then by the way, there were dragons and it killed everybody. The end.
I think I might do a short story on that just because I have to now, because this sounds too much fun. It's like
a fan fiction mashup. Do it.
Yes, absolutely. I've started doing interactive stories on my website, and I think I'm going to add that to my list of interactive stories. Like, should there be dragons or should there not be dragons? It's your choice. Oh, I'll throw that in there as one.
That's not a bad idea, in all seriousness.
I'm
wish.
so going to do it.
I figured by now we'd have like a choose your own adventure style, choose your own adventure sort of like landscape out there where it's just an option for readers to like kind of like be involved in the shaping of the story that they're about to one day consume.
It exists. It exists. So, I mean, you can do that online now. There's a whole bunch of essentially choose your own adventure, but it's all
Is there?
digital.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep. So there's YouTube guys who have it, like where they've filmed out all these different scenarios depending on which
Oh,
direction
right.
you choose.
Yes.
There's stuff on Netflix where they do entire TV shows based
Yeah, they
on
did
like
that
you
one.
choosing that.
They did a couple of those. Yeah.
Yep.
I want more
And
of those.
I've got one too. So I just
Oh.
I put my first one on there. It's if you've read the debut or or even partway into it, I
Uh-huh.
used it as kind of an intro and a test bed. So I took my debut story, played with it a little bit, and so you have choices of what does she do in this situation? Like the very first one, it like kind of does she choose take the mission or not? Which targets does she choose first? I let you choose to get to the ending. And so I'm going to come up with some more of those. They're going to be stories that that are going to be outside the timeline or outside of what is in the actual series. So you'll still be in the world, and I'm going to let people choose. One of my characters is Tex. So, hey,
Hmm.
Tex is in this scenario, and it'll be a whole new story that dovetails with what's going on in the series, and you get to choose what happens to him.
Oh,
And
interesting. You know, it's
yeah,
funny.
now I'm
You have
going to
it
throw
on.
in dragons. I will throw in dragons, and it's
Yes.
going to be for you.
I want a story by credit. And 95% of future sales.
Okay.
You know what's funny? I was on your site and I completely glossed over the interactive stories section. This was not a leading question at all. This was just
Oh, no,
kind of
no,
me
no.
riffing off choose your own adventure stories. But you're way ahead of me.
Well, I learned it in film school. Like one of the classes I did in film school was about interactive storytelling, and
Hmm.
it was to get you thinking in the mindset of going beyond just like in this case a script, but from your typical novel to your typical script. And now you have to plan for things in a 360, or you have to plan for things to go in different directions. So how do you write out a script with choices for your audience to make? And
Hmm.
so that was an entire class. And I had so much fun with the software that I'm like, well, I'm going to do this myself.
Yeah.
And that was what came out of it, was a little tester of,
Oh,
hey,
that's phenomenal.
well, here's Shadow Game. So anybody who's read it's just kind of fun to see how it plays out. I took images from my
Hmm.
graphic novel as the images in it, but it's not going to be a big spoiler for anybody who hasn't read it. So here's your intro to Shadow Game. And then, are you interested to keep reading? Go back and grab the book. Or if you've already read the book, it's just something fun to be able to now you see it, with the choices and pictures from the graphic novel.
Yeah. The graphic novel came after the third book or in between?
It was in between.
Oh,
I did the graphic novel because, well, I'm a nerd. And
sure.
the idea of shifting mediums would just seem like so much fun to me. And of course, I had no idea how difficult it is to make a graphic novel until I jumped into it.
Oh, yeah. You can find the right illustrator and you got
Oh
to
my
go through the
God.
whole. Yeah.
The things I wish I knew.
Yeah. But now you know them.
But now I know, and it was a blast. And, it's
Hmm.
something I can, I did it as a limited run, but it's something I can use now for like, say, storyboarding. If I should take this to Hollywood and be like, hey, here's some ideas of how the screenplay could play out. So here's how it could look on the screen. And at the end of the day, I have my own comic book. And like I said, the nerd in me is jumping up and down for joy right now.
Sure. Well, you went to film school where?
Los Angeles Film School. So I'm still
Oh,
going right
okay.
now. So I graduate in September, and
Uh-huh. Well, that's convenient. You live in Nashville, so it's all online and
it is all online.
yeah.
So every month I get a new class, which I really do like the way they do that. It allows you to focus on one specific topic.
Yes.
The downside of it is that each week is 25% of my grade. So there's
Well,
really no wiggle room if you want.
right.
On the grading scale of things. If you screw something up, chances are it's heavily weighted and it's not going to be pretty for your overall grade.
Yes. And side note, this is a shameless self-promotion of a pipeline related property, but whatever. I really do believe that education is going in more of a bite size, like do it at your own pace kind of thing. And that's why like we have our symposium platform where it's a lot of it's like a year-round conference where it's just one-off sessions. And I like that style because for
I
someone like
love it.
you who you have two kids, you're writing books,
Hmm.
you're marketing those books, which is like 90% of the time, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
feels like it.
but it allows you to kind of like consume a new thing in the arts without committing to it 8 hours a day or 12 hours a day, every day, you
Hmm.
know?
I do miss going brick and mortar because I do like learning and I do like sitting in school, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It is not feasible when you have young children to be able to do that. And so I'm getting exactly what I want, the education I want. I'm getting the insight that I want, and I'm able to do it on my own time and my own terms.
Yeah. Oh, that's
goes along with what I do with publishing too. So
right. That's a good way to button
works for me.
That's a great way to button the podcast. This was a great episode. Who needs Michelle? I say.
No, Michelle, you are loved. You are missed.
No, we love you. Yes, please don't want me to do this every episode. We've been blessed to have so many great guests. This was one of the best of the year. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Taking the time. I have so many other questions, but we'll do a part 2 one day. When one of your books gets adapted, or when the series gets adapted to film, we'll have you back.
It's happened. I'm going to make sure that happens. I've got the screenplay written for Origin Story.
Right. I'm holding you to it, by the way.
I'm shopping it around.
Yeah. If I met, Harlan Coben 20 years ago or whenever he first blew up, and he was like, yeah, I'll come back. See, he wouldn't have come back because he would have been too big. So I'm holding you to it.
I will absolutely do it.
Okay, good. Thank you again. The latest book in the series, although I'll probably start with the first one. It's the Elle Anderson series. Start with Shadow Game, you would recommend, right?
Yeah, and for anybody who likes to start at the beginning of a series, like most of us do, that is the first book. However, you can pick them all up as individual stories, and you won't be lost.
Or just
miss some fun.
Yeah, well, you can get the whole set and autographed, I believe, is an option.
Yeah, you absolutely can. Through my website, and I will autograph them and I will send them to you. And it's so much better than Amazon.
Yes, and it's amadair.com. The interactive stories link is on there as well, which I just discovered 8.5 minutes ago. And wonderful. Thank you so much, Ama. Ama, right?
Ama, yeah.
I'm going to say Ama. My natural instinct says Ama, but I'm like Ama.
And you will see me answer to it, and I will not be offended.
Oh, good. It's not a camel or combo situation. We yell at you forever and deem you misogynist. Which is a true story. I had to have that. I guess for the like the wrong way, just to get away from this. Wonderful. Thank you so much. The next episode, I have no idea. Michelle will tell you when she's back. Re-record. You can't interject, Ama.
I'm sorry.
I'm kidding. I like to yell at the guests at the very end of every podcast episode. Michelle, come back soon. We'll end here.